Welcome to the official catch-up. Today I'm joined by David Chandler, a voice that we obviously recognise because you tend to send me your interviews with Chris Geddes every week. Sometimes, David, how are you doing?
I'm not so bad at all, thanks, Chris. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like everyone else, I'm putting out so much content at the moment because everyone's free, and hopefully it's helping people and whatnot. But yeah, like yourself, probably I've been missing the football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking, it's 2 weeks ago today. I was at my last game, which was up at Stirling. It was a Bucks semi-final, and it just seems like a lifetime ago. The Saturday before that, I was down in London at the Arsenal game at the Emirates, and it just seems like we're in a different world now, and it is something obviously that it takes up so much of our lives, and we all miss. I mean, I also work in football, so football is literally my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not working at the club. I'm up in Stirling or at other games, or I'm watching it on TV, and to suddenly have that all gone is very, very strange. But I think we have to put things in perspective, don't we? And with everything that's going on at the moment, perhaps football isn't as consequential as we think it is.
Yep, and less said about Arsenal, the better. Obviously, I'm a Tottenham fan, but I'll
I know
never
you
hold.
are. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'll never hold it against you, David. Because, but yeah, no, it's obviously difficult for people, and this is why, as I said, I'm wanting to do these. I'm just hoping, as I say, I'm not putting too much out there. I hope all the chats are a wee bit different, and people, are listening and enjoying them, just to get through the day, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I've listened to a few myself, and I think you're doing a great job with them. It's good to hear voices from around the league and from other clubs as well, and also the format that you've got, with perhaps a bit of a longer chat than you do about a game, where we're able to learn a bit more about some of the people whose names we know and are perhaps familiar to us. So I've listened to a few. I will listen to a few more as well, and they're very welcome at the moment.
The funny thing is, a lot of people probably don't realise this, but obviously there's some guys I've spoken to, like to yourself, and obviously like Nathan Austin, Chris Dodds and stuff. But there's some guys that I've never actually personally spoken to in person, and they're still going well. Actually, I think I think the chats are still going well. It just kind of proves that a lot of people within football are pretty sound and good people and easy to get on with, sort of thing.
Absolutely, and in terms of the Lowland League and my experience coming up and over the last few years following the Lowland League and getting to know obviously the people at Stirling and indeed at other clubs as well. Everywhere that we've been, we've had a warm welcome and met some great people, and that's one of the things that we enjoy so much about coming up is the friends that we make there. Both around Stirling and the other clubs as well. It's been fantastic.
From what I know of you, David, you're quite an outdoors person, and drive you do everything up to Stirling Uni and stuff. I take it, are you missing it quite a lot?
Well, we are missing it. It's my wife that does the driving. I don't drive at all.
All right.
She does the driving, and yeah, we both work. For those that don't know, I work at Morecambe here in England. I work at Morecambe Football Club. So on a Morecambe first team home game, I'm there. But when we don't have a home game, then we're up at Stirling. So it tends to be every other week, depending when the games are, that we're able to come up. And we've done that, for the last few years. And it's, as I say, we've made great friends up there. We love the Lowland League, and over the time that we've been coming up and watching, because Stirling obviously has, like a lot of the Lowland League clubs, limited resources. I've ended up somehow getting involved doing media duties, doing the gaffer's interview after the game, which I enjoy doing. And also this last season, I filmed all the games that I've been able to come to and done the highlights and stuff, which is like having another job. But it's the reward of it is that the boys and the parents and the people who are interested in the Lowland League all that seem to enjoy the content, and I know the people at the uni, are very appreciative of it, and it's great to do. I've enjoyed it and had some fantastic times up there in Stirling.
How has your work been affected? Obviously, Morecambe, I take it they'll not be playing a lot of football at the moment, like everyone else.
No, well, I work in the youth academy, so I work with doing basically the administration for our younger players, so under 9s to under 16s, and that all revolves around football activity. So fixtures, organising fixtures and appointing officials, arranging the stewards and things that we have when we play our schoolboy games, signing players, signing trialists, basically, communicating with the parents and all the sort of day-to-day stuff around the running of an academy is my job. And when we were notified by the EFL that activity was to be suspended, which was a couple of weeks ago now, it was obviously all happened very quickly. So we had games arranged for that weekend. So there was some work to do around sort of putting everything, cancelling the things that we already had in place. So now it's sort of I'm working from home, doing what I can at home, in contact with colleagues. We've got our coaching staff who work with the boys during the week, and they're maintaining contact with the boys. I mean, the great thing now, of course, is with technology like we're using Zoom, so that the boys and their coaches can have chats. They've been able to send them programs to work on for fitness and nutrition and so on. Because, of course, for the boys, they're no longer at school now, so they've got a lot of time and they're missing their football, I'm sure, just as we all miss it. So trying to keep them busy and active for their sake, and also for their parents, so their parents appreciate it. So we've been doing stuff on the social media. Our coaches have been getting them to send in, skills and doing the toilet roll challenge and stuff. So yeah, it's had a massive impact. And I also work with the first team set up on a first team match day. I have a completely different job that I do at the club, involving supporting the ground safety officer. And of course, with no first team football, that all sort of has been put on hold as well. So yeah, it's like I say, football is basically my whole life. It's my job and it's my hobby. So it's a big gap. But the things I think that you miss most about it, that you don't perhaps appreciate day to day, is not just the game itself. It's also all the friendships and the camaraderie that you get around football. The banter that we have with each other, and the contact day to day of being involved in football. So yeah, it's a huge loss. It's different, I'm sure, very different for me to the players who miss the physical side of it, as well as the camaraderie and the games and stuff. So yeah, we'll see how long this layoff continues. Hopefully, it's not it's not as long as we fear it might be.
Yeah, and obviously it'll probably not. I don't know where Morecambe are in the league, but obviously it wouldn't affect Stirling Uni. But what do you think should happen in terms of where we go next if football can't continue, or even if it can, should we? It's a tough one. I have to ask this just to get opinions.
No, it's fine. And I've just seen in the news today with the English leagues here that basically everything below the National League has been written off. And I think the answer depends on the timing when this situation is resolved, or resolved up to a point where some sort of normality can resume. I think initially people were thinking, it'll be a few weeks and then we'll get back to life as normal. And I think that is becoming less likely. And so depending when we do get back to normality, I think that depends on what course we could take. And I'm hoping this is obviously a worst case scenario sort of thing. If in a year's time, it took until March 2021 to get back to normality, perhaps we could say, well, hang on, we'll just pick up where we were because we're a year down the line. Now, hopefully it won't be that long. If it was in the very near future, we could perhaps finish the season. But if that isn't possible, the longer it goes on, the more complicated the situation gets with players' contracts and things like that. So I think your options are either, resume where you were, write off the league, or some third way, some sort of playoffs or something like that. And whatever route you take, there's going to be some clubs who are going to be very unhappy and feel that they've been treated very unfairly. But we're in unprecedented times, and normality, has gone out the window, isn't it? So I think whatever happens, it has to be, in my view, applied the same across the board. And I suppose at the moment I'd be going with the seasons, perhaps the season that we've just had put on pause will perhaps have to be written off. But that's just my view. I know it will upset a lot of people at some clubs, and it's not ideal, but I just can't see how we could finish the season that we're in. And I think the longer the situation goes on, the less likely that option becomes. But we shall see.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I've been null and void from the outset, unless in Scotland anyway, they sort of restructure the leagues where the likes of Bora and Kelty could somehow be part of the league. Maybe the top two from each league could go up, no relegation sort of thing. But it is. I've often said it. I've said it probably too many times, but I'm glad I'm not the person to make that decision.
No, as I say, whatever the decision is, I don't think it will make everybody happy. I mean, the thing with the restructuring in Scotland is fine if you're a Kelty supporter, but for Bonnyrigg, it seems to me harsh on them when they're still in with the shout of the title. So there's no easy answers, but at the moment it's something. Yeah, I mean, we all as football fans and people interested in football have been thinking about it, but I think if we look at the bigger picture, there's obviously more important things at the moment going on. Yep. And this will be resolved in the fullness of time. And as I say, there'll be winners and losers, but we just have to suck it up and get on. And I think when we do get back to football, we'll just be so pleased to be back at it that any clubs that are disappointed by whatever the decision is, I'm sure we'll soon get over it and just enjoy being back playing football, which is where we all want to be.
Yeah, absolutely, David. And that's the thing, you mentioned it there, but there is more important things. Like this is why I'm doing this, because I do understand that people will be feeling a wee bit isolated, maybe a wee bit bored, stuck in the house. I've been all right actually, because I've been doing these, so it's kept me going a wee bit. But it's we have to keep in mind the people's sort of mental health, the worry of, about their families and stuff, and everything else that's going on at the moment. There's more important things in football, but it's important to have these chats, and that's one thing I've been also, we've been talking about football obviously, but I've been talking about how have people been self-isolating, what they've been doing, how's their jobs been, how it's affected this, that and the next thing, because that's also important too. Yeah,
absolutely. And I mean, whilst I say football isn't important, it also is important. That's why we love it, because and the thing I've been sort of thinking, we've all had a lot of time to think, haven't we, over the last week? And I mean, one of the things for me that I love about football is that it brings people together. And I mean, I've made lots of great friendships through football, and I had some amazing times. I mean, I went to my first football match when I was 5 years old, and that was a long time ago. And I've loved football all my life, and it's given me moments that are just priceless, and friendships that are priceless to me, and that is important. So whilst we say there are more important things in life than football, there are, but also football is a huge force for good, and I think that we shouldn't lose sight of that. And that's why we're having chats like this, because it has connected so many people over so many years. And I think without perhaps going over the top about it, I think the fight against this virus and the way that it needs to be tackled is by people coming together. And that's what football people do. We do come together and support one another. And I've seen a lot of stuff that football clubs around, both here in England and up in Scotland and elsewhere, are doing to support their communities and so on. I mean, a club I work for, Morecambe, are looking at initiatives to support the local community. And I think football is a great force for good, and we shouldn't lose sight of that and trivialise football. You know, it is something that's important to a lot of people, and has a reach, you know, that other things don't have.
When I tend to talk about Stirling Uni, obviously, and I openly admit I was similar. I kind of, when I first got involved in the league, I was kind of like maybe looked down on the uni teams, like I'd rather have a hill of beef or an S in there. But I obviously tweeted out there is a bit of a panic sometimes when opposition teams do get beat by the uni teams.
Yeah.
And Callum Downey actually has just tweeted something in response, and he was basically saying not many teams worrying about Edinburgh Uni this season with the down arrows. So
Yeah.
I don't know if he's. You might get in a wee bit of trouble for that one, I think.
Well, he can answer to that one, can't he? If he's put his name to it. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, when we first started going up to Scotland, I mean, for those that don't know, our connection to the club is through Tom Cowley, who's just this year, he's in his final year at Stirling Uni, graduates this year, and he was a scholar at Morecambe, and he lived with us. You know, we were his house parents, and we've kept in touch with Tom. And when he was at Morecambe, because he comes from the Isle of Man, his family couldn't come over and watch the games each week. So they came over when they could, but we sort of started going to all the games, and he was with us, living here 7 days a week. And so we became very close to Tom, and continued to support him when he went up to Stirling, and just found that, you know, we loved the setup there and the football. And I have to say, as an Englishman, that you do tend, you know, there is a tendency with English football fans to look down a bit at Scottish football generally, and say, oh, you know, it's only about the old firm and whatever. And my knowledge of Scottish football wasn't that great, I have to confess. And I was surprised how good the standard of the Lowland League was. It was far better and more entertaining than I would have ever expected. There's some great teams in the league, you know, that I've really enjoyed watching over the last few years. Some great players. The uni has, you know, some fantastic young players, and you won't be surprised to hear, as someone who works in a youth academy, you know, I love seeing young players coming through, and exciting young players. So I've really enjoyed watching the Lowland League, and I've enjoyed watching Stirling Uni, because I think one of the things that I like particularly about the uni team is that the boys are very honest in terms of the way they apply themselves. They always give 100%. They always give their best, and they work, you know, for each other. There's real camaraderie between those players, and Chris, you know, forges a great team ethic, and as did Shelley before him. And as a supporter, you know, you never, very rarely do you go to a game and come away thinking the boys didn't really sort of, you know, give a good account of themselves there. Sometimes they'll get beat, and I mean, the game at Kelty was a good example where we went in front and frustrated Kelty for a long spell of the game, and ended up losing 2-1. But the boys, you know, should have been very proud of themselves that day, because they really gave everything, you know, against a very good side. And I enjoy that aspect of it. You know, you're always going to get a good game, and we've seen some cracking games this season and over the last few years, and it's been really fun, you know, to sort of follow their journey and see those young players progress.
Absolutely, and that was one of the games that last season that really made me think about Stirling Uni differently. It was the 2-2 draw at New Central Park. But I think in the game this season, I remember saying to you, I think it was Jason Jarvis and Craig Brown, and then they ended up being the two that were the influential. It's like I'm looking forward to seeing Jason Jarvis and Craig Brown, and they go and I think they both scored, or one was an assist or something like that. But no, it's a fantastic programme. Full credit to not only the players, but the gaffer, the whole uni basically, and guys like yourself for promoting it. Fantastic work that you do. I take it you are going to continue coming up once Tom leaves uni?
I don't know, because I don't know obviously where Tom will be next season, and wherever he ends up playing, we will go and support him. I'm hoping he will continue with his football, but obviously things are all sort of a bit up in the air at the moment. So we shall see. But wherever we end up watching our football most of next season, we will definitely keep a a close eye on what goes on at Stirling Uni, and we will definitely come up and see the guys there. I mean, it's, you know, as for everybody, the season has sort of come to a pause in a strange way. You know, we sort of left the last game a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it was a disappointing defeat, and you just sort of thought, okay, we'll be back for the next game. And it's been a strange sort of way. You know, we're not sort of said goodbye to people, and you know, there were players, obviously Tom and Angus Mailer, who were due to finish this season, and yeah, it's been strange, you know, the whole way things have happened. So there sort of feels like there's unfinished business there, and we will definitely be, you know, keeping our contact with Chris and the lads up there at the uni.
Yeah, and it was something I touched on with Nathan Austin as well, because obviously Kelty, you know, given their position, I know Bonnie Rigger are there, but it's like, it almost feels no matter what is decided, it's kind of going to be a bit disappointing for people either way, because they're not going to have the chance to maybe celebrate a title or promotion the same as they would have had they actually done it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the uni we've had the Bucks Premier League North title win, so we did at least get to celebrate that, which was just like absolutely fantastic day. I was, you know, so proud of the boys that day, the way they played, and you know, to be there and sort of see that. We went down to Nottingham for the final game, which, just for those that don't know, they, in order to win the league, they were playing Nottingham, who were the reigning champions. Nottingham only needed a draw to retain the title, so Uni had to win. And they scored in the, I think it was 83rd minute or something, Craig Brown scored. And it was just like one of those moments. I was saying to the boys after, you know, I've been lucky to see, like, you know, cup final wins and title wins and things like that in my lifetime. And those moments, it doesn't matter what level, you know, the joy, you know, of that sort of victory is the same. And so we had that sort of real high, and we're obviously looking forward to then, you know, the rest of the season playing out. So yeah, it's been hard. It will be hard for those teams that, you know, been like Kelty and Bonnie Rig, you know, pushing for the title, and to potentially see that just sort of disappear is very cruel. But as I say, we've got to look at the bigger picture, and in the greater schemes things, if that's the price we have to pay for, you know, coming through the other side of this, then so be it.
Absolutely, David, and yeah, we touched on it obviously, but there is a lot more important things at the moment, and but it's, you know, like we said, football is meaningful to a lot of people. Like you said, you know, the moments like that when Stirling Uni won the Bucks, I was actually looking out on Twitter that day to see if you would do it, and I just remember the reaction. I remember the interviews that you done. I was delighted for you as well, and I wasn't even there.
It was one of those where, well, I don't know, as I say, I mean, I've been to some memorable games in my lifetime, and I put out there with the best of them. It was just pure drama, you know. And Gary, our club chaplain, who was doing the Twitter, after, you know, we were chatting, doing those interviews with Chris and some of the boys and so on, and yeah, there were lumps in our throats, you know. I don't mind admitting it. My wife was in tears, and it was like just really emotional, because it goes back to what I was saying. We were so pleased for the boys because they deserved it. They worked so hard, and they do work so hard, you know. I mean, to be a footballer, whatever level you do it, requires sacrifices, and you give up so much. You know, you give up your weekends, you give up nights when you're training. You're out there in all weathers. I'm not saying, you know, I'm not putting them on a pedestal above anyone else. I'm just saying that there is a sacrifice involved in being a footballer. Of course, the lads love doing it, and when you get those moments, you know, they're there to be savoured, because there are so many downs in football. You know, you have to enjoy the ups when you get them.
I spoke to Alex Webb, and we discussed that. Me personally, I love to see Stirling Uni, Edinburgh Uni beat the bigger teams, if you will, because there is a bit of I think an overreaction a lot of the time. I think we saw it with Cumbernauld Colts when Edinburgh Uni beat them, when you guys beat Shire, and I think Berwick as well. I think it's quite funny in a good way.
Well, we've had some fantastic wins this season. I mean, one that stands out for me was the 1-0 win away at EK. For me, it was the classic away performance. It was the sort of performance, if you do it in Europe, you'd say it was the classic smash and grab. I mean, scored a great goal, Craig Brown again, but it was a great team goal. Started with, I think it was Jason Jarvis pinching the ball off an EK player in the centre circle, and then there was about 6 passes before Craig Brown puts it away. But they defended so well that day. And yeah, you're right. The reaction, I think, after on social media from some of the EK fans was, it was like, we shouldn't be losing to these guys, these students. And then the win at Shire was a great one. We beat Spartans in the cup away with again a late winner. That was when we were down to 10 men. And I thought played very well away at Kelty. So yeah, the boys have done well against some of the big boys this season, and there's some real standout results there. And I think again it goes back to the hard work that they put in, and there's some great talented young players in the side. Just want to say, hats off to you and the guys who do the catch up, and it's something that I think, especially at the moment, as I say, it's good for people to hear familiar voices and to perhaps chat about something other than the problems that we're all facing, to talk about some other stuff. Football's a great distraction, and that's something that we all love about it, that it keeps us occupied, keeps us talking, brings people together. So anything that can do that at the moment, like these chats you're doing, I think is worthwhile. So thanks for your time, and thanks for doing it.
Very much appreciated, David. And if it doesn't continue, obviously, you're not going to be up at Stirling Uni as much. I appreciate all the help you've given to the catch up with your interviews with Chris Geddes and stuff. And all the best to you and Christine and Tom and everyone in the family. And hopefully we'll pull out this, and it'll be back to football soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, and I look forward to seeing you and our other friends up in Scotland as soon as we're able to, because as I say, we do miss it. And best wishes to everybody around the league and associated with all the clubs, and let's hope we're back soon.